Welcome to another episode of Listen, Learn, and Love, hosted by Richard Osler. My guest on today's podcast is my friend Luke Warnock. Welcome to the podcast, Luke.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Just to give you a little bit of an overview on Luke, Luke is a recent graduate from Corner Canyon. He's the student body president, the class of 2019 that just graduated. Luke is a starting member of the high school varsity basketball team that beat state. And Luke, in the last few months, has come out as gay to his school, to his friends, to his family. And Luke is just bravely sharing his story as a gay member of our community. But I became aware of Luke and through my friend Jill Hazard Rowe, who just released a podcast called Human Stories. And Luke was on that podcast. He's done a 2-part podcast. I encourage everybody to connect with Jill's podcast and hear Luke's story. And Luke, any thoughts on that podcast and connecting with Jill?
Yeah, I was just really thankful that she reached out to me. We had a really good long conversation about my coming out story and about the whole deal. And so I'm just thankful for Jill. And so everyone go listen to Human Stories with Jill Hazard Rowe. It was awesome.
So let's start with where did you grow up, Luke? Where you grew up in Utah? Did you grow up somewhere else?
Yeah, I grew up in Utah. So I was born in Salt Lake. My family moved from Salt Lake to Draper when I was like 5 or 6. I'm not really quite sure, right when my parents got divorced. But then I grew up in Draper all throughout my growing up, and until this past year, my mom moved to Riverton. My dad's still in Draper, and so that's where we're at right now.
And tell us about your family. How many siblings do you have?
I have 3 real older sisters, and so I'm the youngest, and then I have 2 stepsisters from my dad's remarriage who are also older than me, but one of them's only a month older than me. So.
And tell us about basketball. We're going to talk about basketball first because that's this is not a sports podcast, but we could talk for an hour about Corner Canyon basketball. Tell us were you a multi-sport guy? Were you just a basketball guy? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so growing up, I played football, basketball, and baseball. Honestly, football was probably my biggest sport growing up. And I didn't like basketball when I was younger. I just did junior jazz. My parents signed me up for it, hoping one day I'd like it. My uncles have careers in basketball. One of them played in the NBA. And so basketball runs in the genes.
Wow.
And so my mom was hoping that it would happen with me too. But I didn't like basketball when I was younger until about right before 7th grade. I wanted to start getting serious. And so I tried out for the Bantam, the youth team, and I made the B team 7th grade, made the A team 8th grade, and then played all throughout high school.
And just so our listeners know, our youngest son played at Cottonwood, which is in the same region as Corner Canyon. So I've watched you play basketball. I'm sure I've been to Corner Canyon twice and watched you guys destroy Cottonwood.
Actually, we lost to Cottonwood last year, I think.
And I think on our home court, we beat you.
Yeah, so we're pretty even with Cottonwood, actually.
I don't know how many losses you had on your road to win state, but I guess Cottonwood was one of the few losses.
Yeah, I don't even recall, but
it's a blur.
Yeah, it is, but
as
Cottonwood was even with us for sure.
Yeah, as my wife and I watched those games, recognized that Corner Canyon's a great team and a lot of depth, and you're a starting member of that team. And I wonder if my son, who's now on a mission, and you ever trash talk. He kind of liked to trash talk. I don't know if Cottonwood has a reputation of a trash talking team, or or if you guys do, but I think it was all in good nature.
I think I remember a little trash talking with Cottonwood, but I love to trash talk too. So it goes both ways.
It goes both ways. Want to talk about, obviously we're going to talk about you being gay, but you're more than just a gay man, and we'll talk about that. But I want to talk about just why you ran for SBO, because it's a big high school. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. You're, a high school athlete. Tell us the story of why you ran for SBO and what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah, so junior year, I was on student government. I ran that year just because I felt like I didn't really have any ulterior motives. I wanted to do it. I thought it'd be a good time. And I made that. I was junior class vice president. And about midway throughout the year, I realized that this could be an opportunity to help people maybe change a little bit what I didn't like at Corner Canyon and try to help kids. And so I ran for student body officer, and I made that. We don't run for positions at Corner Canyon, you just run.
How many
And
won then that qualified for this group as student
there
body officer?
there were we had 11
Okay.
SBOs, but art doesn't run. It's like um how am I trying? It's like a job interview kind of.
Okay.
They show their portfolio.
Because you got to have
Same,
specific skills
yeah,
to do
same with
that
the
part.
tech officer.
That makes
We had
sense.
2 tech officers, which doesn't usually happen, but we did. And so eight students ran and made SBO.
And what's the process then for the SBO president to be selected?
So from the time you make SBO to a student government camp you go to like mid-June, from like April to June is just a big old tryout, and you're having meetings, you're discussing things, you're figuring out the theme for next year. And so the advisors, we have 2 advisors, they watch you and they decide who would be best at what position. And so this whole period I was trying to be a good leader and show my leadership skills and show like love and care for everyone, and it worked out for me.
How do you get notified you're the SBO president?
So the last night of camp at about midnight, they say, "Hey, come find out your position." So everyone walks to um I don't even know where, just wherever at Utah State is where the camp is at. So probably in one of our dorms or something. But then they just go through lists. They start with the freshman class officers and go all the way up and end with the student body president. And it's super stressful. Everyone's on pins and needles, but after it's a big sigh of relief. And yeah.
Did everybody want to be a student body president that were part of that group, or did and maybe you don't know that?
I know it was about a two-way race between me
Okay.
and another kid. He's on a mission at the moment, but yeah, it was pretty tight, but I'm just glad they chose me. I'm lucky, and he did a great job at vice president, so I was lucky to have him too.
And talk about what you wanted to accomplish. You kind of hinted to that, Luke, but yeah, what did you want to accomplish? And even you kind of mentioned there were some things that perhaps you didn't like about the culture at Corner Canyon you wanted to change.
I just wanted to change the culture to be kind. That's all I cared about, was showing everyone love and acceptance no matter who they were. I've always been big on that. I've always been a big advocate for the LGBT communities, basically any minorities in general. I consider myself very feminist, and so any minorities in general, I want to give them a voice. And so I just wanted to advocate for kindness and change that culture, because I know Corner Canyon, if people listening to this have gone to Corner Canyon or have students there, I know it can be a little clicky, and it can be hard to be like a new student, or even if you start off on the wrong foot, it's basically game over from there because it's so clicky and it's just kind of a strange culture. And so
Start off on the wrong foot. That's a great way to phrase just maybe you made a mistake or you said the
yeah,
wrong thing, and
yeah, or
you would
you
hope a community would still bring you in.
yeah, or say you start off with the wrong group of friends, or not necessarily the wrong group of friends, the less popular. It's all about popularity at Corner Canyon, and so I wanted to change that to where everyone could be friends, and we could all just love each other and have a good time.
What would be the greatest compliment your fellow graduates at Corner Canyon could say to you, or those that are still there that remember you and your fellow SBOs, today or a year or 2 years, 5 years down the road?
I just hope they look back and see that we were kind to them, and because I know a lot of the SBOs in the past, people say student government ruins the school, they run the school, which isn't true, but they come off with a persona of we're the best, we're on top, we're the top dogs. And so I hope the that kids will look back and say they were just trying to give people a voice, trying to do the most for the school and be kind, and they made everyone feel welcome.
It's great. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, but most of the guests on the podcast are connected with the LDS Church. Luke isn't. Luke grew up outside of the LDS Church in a very LDS culture, and I think that's part of your unique journey.
Right.
And so I'm really grateful to have you on the podcast for multiple reasons. But this is still putting sort of you being gay on the shelf for a second and talking about other issues. Talk about just being not LDS and being in an LDS dominated culture. Are there any things that I'm LDS, active LDS. Is there any things that we can do better to just help everybody feel included?
Um,
And maybe you had a pretty good experience. I don't know.
for the most part, it was solid. I mean, I can't complain because everyone has been kind to me. Just, I think the one thing that always frustrated me the most was um, friends talking to me about, and I'm always open to conversations about it because I think that's how you get to know people, and that's why it's like this podcast. You just listen to people's stories. Everyone has a different story to tell. So I was always open to hear people's stories about the church, and I would ask questions I didn't understand. And in that situation, I'm all for telling me about the church, but that's when I'm open to it. And so when it's sprung on you out of nowhere, or that it feels like it's being forced on you, because I know what the church is about and I know all that, and I'm fine with people doing that, but I don't know if it's necessarily for me. And so when I felt like people were trying to convert me or trying to force their religion on me, I wasn't a fan of that. And I think one thing that the LDS listeners could take from this is just that just because like we don't have the same beliefs doesn't mean our beliefs are wrong. It doesn't mean your beliefs are wrong. Everyone is entitled to their own beliefs, and so there's not one wrong or right in my opinion. And I think that's what makes the world go round.
I'm really comfortable with that answer. It's helpful. What were the best things your LDS friends did? I assume you had close friends that were LDS.
Right.
Um, what were the best things that they did just to help you feel like you were a true friend to them?
Um. Anything any other friend would do. I don't think our relations our relationships, sorry, weren't based on religion. They were based on character, and so they didn't force anything on me. I didn't force anything on them. We were all just respectful of each other. And I think that's what it all comes down to is mutual respect for every person, no matter what. And I think the world's heading in the right direction. I think it still has a lot of work to do. But I think in general it's getting better and better, and we can keep that movement going.
I love that line. I don't know if you've just came up with it off the cuff, Luke, based on character.
Hmm.
Kind of a cool way to base relationships. And to me, that means common goals and just the ability to come together and share common values and goals and see good in each other. I like that.
Right, and everyone has good in them. There may be people, especially in high school, kids struggle with identity. I know I did at the start of high school. Towards the end, I was more comfortable with myself. Obviously, I was able to come out and be okay with it. But I think high school kids struggle with identity a lot, and so what they say or do, their actions may not necessarily be what they're feeling. And so you got to really find the good in people. And I think there's always good to find in people, and that's how friendships are made, in my opinion.
Let's circle back to basketball one last
For
time.
sure.
Tell our listeners what position you played, how tall you are, maybe you may not even remember this, your best game or the most points you scored as a senior.
Right. And so I'm about 6'3". On a good day with shoes on, I'm 6'3". I like to tell people I'm 6'3", but I played the three, small forward. We had a couple taller kids than me, and so they played in the posts. And um, as a senior, pretty much all throughout high school, I wasn't really a scorer. I think a lot of kids like to focus on scoring because obviously scoring's fun. It's a good time, but there are other things in basketball that you have to do in order to win. And so I think every team needs at least a few guys that'll do the intangibles. And
What was your favorite thing to do? Was it
I
defense? Was
loved
it blocking? Was it
defense.
rebounding? Was it getting an offensive charge? Or just
Defense,
all of the
just
above?
locking down, just not necessarily anything on the stat sheet because
Nothing on the
when
stat sheet.
when you stop someone and they pass it off, if they're trying to score and they have to pass, that doesn't go on the stat sheet, but it changes the game. And so I loved defense because I kind of found my niche that way. And so my senior year, um, looking back, I think scoring wise, I dropped about 18 or 19 against Alta. That was cool. But I think my best game was probably against Timpview, where
Good team.
their best player averaged like 29 a game. I held him to about 12 or 14 points, and that to me that was my best game because
That's a
I don't know if a lot of other people could do that defensively, and so I take pride in defense.
That's great. And our head coach, Coach Gummersall, I don't know if you're listening to this podcast, was our head coach who had roots at Corner Canyon, and a lot of your players knew him. And Now he's left Cottonwood, I believe, for Harriman, so we wish him the best. One of the things that's, as I've stepped in this space and have heard so many stories of LGBTQ members, Luke, some of the stereotypes that I had picked up have kind of fallen away. And you're sort of helpful to break that stereotype because most people don't think of a student body president and as kind of a star athlete in basketball at a school as gay. They just kind of like have maybe some stereotypes of some
Right.
personality types or some interests that sort of fit that mold. And so it kind of helps people step back and go, well, this, maybe some of the things that I've assumed are not correct.
Right.
So that's one of the things I'm so great. And Jill did such a good job interviewing you for the Human Stories podcast. But just tell our listeners your journey as a gay man, and when you sort of just came to terms. This is not an easy journey usually.
Yeah, and so it wasn't easy. It was tough, and I think obviously I preface this on Jill's podcast, but my story is my story. Everyone's is different. That's why I'm glad you do this podcast because everyone's story is unique and valid,
And
and
valid.
getting these stories out there, it can help kids that might be going through the same thing. Because I know my story felt a little different, and that I struggle with that at times because I kind of felt alone. But if I saw someone on, say, from my school that was this big face of the school and was also gay, that would have helped me. And so that's my goal. But
It's a great goal.
yeah, and so I I actually didn't know I was gay when I was younger until yeah, so okay. So growing up, I didn't know I was gay. I was just doing my thing, any other thing a kid would do. You date girls, you like girls, you have little crushes, that's how it goes. And I started dating my girlfriend at the time when I was 15. The summer after my freshman year, we started dating. Um, we dated for about 2.5 years. We took a little break in there for about 4 months, but for the most part, we were really solid. And it wasn't until August of 2018, this past year, so almost a year ago, that I started writing in a journal. And in the journal, I wrote, I think I may be bisexual. I'm just a little confused about my sexual orientation. And so that was the first time I even really considered it. That was the first time I really, like, on paper. I mean, I had thought about it, say like a year before, 2 years before. I'm like, what if? And then I'd just squash it. But this was the first time I really materialized it, and I was like, this could be a thing.
It takes a lot of courage to probably write that
It
down.
was scary
That's
at the
probably
moment.
coming out to yourself in some
Right,
ways.
coming out to yourself that was the hardest thing for me. But so I wrote that. I thought I was bisexual.
Will you share with our listeners kind of why you got to that point where you wrote that down?
Honestly, I don't know. That journal was all about me just spewing my thoughts onto the page. It had no structure, nothing. I would write things about my future career. I would write things about my purpose on this earth. And then I wrote that and I looked back and I was like, oh, maybe I am. So it kind of, I kind of just, it just came out of me. And so then when it was out there, I was like maybe this is a thing. And then I thought about it more and more, and I was really struggling with it at the time because it's scary not knowing your sexuality. And you think you see it in the media, these guys are these LGBTQ members of the community are so sure with with themselves, they're so sure with their sexuality, but it's not always like that. And even now I still struggle with it, but there's so much uncertainty, and so I was terrified. And one day, Ashley, she just said to me, she's like, "Hey, I hope one day you'll let me read your journal." And I kind of lost it. Not, I wasn't angry, but I freaked out because that's just scary. And there was some things in there that I wasn't ready to share with people, obviously. And she meant it in good intentions. She
Sure.
wasn't. She wanted to see like my outlook on life because I'm a positive person. So she thought that there would be some good lessons in there to learn. And so she meant well, but it was really scary. And so I said, no, there's some things in there I'm not ready to share with you yet. And she took that the wrong way, thought I was cheating on her, or her anxiety kind of took over and she automatically jumped to the worst. And so then I was stuck in between a rock and a hard place of either Ashley thinks you're cheating on her or you come out when you're not ready to come out. And so it was hard. And um, it took a while for me to decide. I talked to my sister who identifies as pan, and she helped me.
Is your sister then the very first person except your journal you talked to about this?
She was, and I talked to her because I knew she would understand, because she had gone through a lot of the same things. Not necessarily, obviously, she wasn't forced out of the closet, but she had experienced the same uncertainty and the same confusion. So I knew she would be accepting and understanding and give me some good insight. So I told her it was a big crying session. I was kind of losing it, big mental breakdown. She helped me through it. We kind of mutually decided that it would be best if I told Ashley, because bisexual means you're attracted to men and women. And so if I told Ashley and I was still with Ashley, she should be okay with it, because obviously I'm still choosing to be with her because I'm still attracted to her. And so I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do it. And I told Ashley. At first she was kind of like, whoa. And then she thought about it and she said, that's fine. I still love you. I still accept you. Let's work through this. And I was like, all right, deal. Let's do it. And
will you just, even though we should have your sister telling us what pansexual is, if she were here, will you just do your best at that for our listeners that may not be familiar with pansexual?
Yeah. So obviously I'm not an expert, but from what she's told me and what I've looked into, pan and bi are somewhat similar. There's some debate in the community of whether they're the same, but from her point of view, bisexual includes the binary, men and women, but pansexual is all. And so, it's men, women, gender queer, gender neutral, gender fluid, trans men, trans women, basically anything. It eradicates the binary. And so it's all. And we're bisexual. And it depends on the person, because some people identify as bi, but they also don't care about the binary. It really depends on how the person chooses.
That's very
define
helpful.
it. But
that's helpful.
That's, from my knowledge, that's the difference. And I mean,
thanks, Luke. It's the first time we've talked really about pan. So thank you.
Yeah.
So you're talking to Ashley, and at first she's kind of like, oh my gosh. And then she's like, well, maybe this doesn't change anything.
Yeah. And so we tried to work through it. She was going through some stuff herself with depression and anxiety. And and so we were trying to work through it. It didn't really work out. I tried to go to therapy, trying to figure out what my sexuality was. And looking back, it's all kind of a blur of the timeline, the chronological order of it. But
as the senior year started? Because I think you wrote in the journal before the senior year started.
I wrote in the journal probably right as senior year started.
So you've got, just for context, you've got an incredibly intense year.
Yeah.
With SBO and basketball, that's sort of that's every day of the week, because I think Corner Canyon is pretty serious about their game, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's helpful for our listeners, just to realize you've got a heavy load, man.
It was hard. Looking back, I honestly don't know how I did it, really, because there was school, there was, like you said, SBO. We did a lot at the start of the year. It's really busy, and we were getting ready for Charity Month in December, which is insane. And then basketball every single day, getting ready for the season, trying to figure out where I want to go to college, doing applications. So it was a lot. And I know anyone listening to this has gone through the same kind of identity crisis, or those that haven't that are listening. It consumes you. It was all I thought about all day long, every single day. And so that's tough when I obviously had other things I needed to think about, and I couldn't, because I was so confused with myself and my identity. But so I came out to my sister. Ashley knew. Ashley told her mom, which I was upset with at first, but it was good intentions. Her mom actually found me a therapist.
Good.
So shout out to her. But I told my mom, the first thing I said to my mom, she came upstairs one night. I was just crying in my bed, and she said, "What's up? What's going on?" And the first words I said were, "I need therapy." And then I told her why, that I was unsure about my sexuality. And at that time, I didn't know if I were bi or gay. And so I got into therapy. That helped me a lot. And I know you wanted to touch on this, but it was kind of the way I describe it is sexual affirmation therapy. For those that don't know what it is, it's kind of just giving you validity where I feel like it was missing in my life. I was unsure of my sexuality. So my therapist helped me figure that out. She helped me because I'm a very insightful person. I think I'm very emotionally aware of myself. And so a lot of the questions I had in therapy, I answered myself. It's just nice talking to someone that is unbiased and knowing that it's in full confidentiality.
Yeah.
So that helped me a ton. So I was dating Ashley at the time when I started going to therapy. My therapist helped me come to terms with breaking up with Ashley because I was struggling with that a lot. I did not want to hurt her, but my therapist helped me with that. My therapist helped me with being okay with being gay because, again, I when I was in therapy, I was like, I might be bisexual, and then I would talk about things, and it was clearly obvious that I wasn't bisexual, that I was gay, but she helped me come to terms with that because it's tough. And so I'm thankful for that. And then I came out to my family
I think
one by
it's a
one.
great sign of strength you went to therapy. You know, I just think that is not a sign of weakness if our listeners are listening
Exactly.
and saying, hey, that's one of the things that I think, you know, Luke, you're doing a good job of is you're just owning therapy. And
Yeah.
it's not like you're weak or
Exactly.
I think that's just a really helpful thing to find the right therapist. And what that therapist did for you was very helpful.
Well, that's, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions in society in general is that asking for help is a sign of weakness, when in my opinion, it's a sign of strength, that you can recognize that you need help and you're brave enough to go grab it. And so I think for any listeners that are thinking about doing therapy for any reason, I think everyone could use therapy for anything. I think I'm 100% believer in therapy. Go do it. I think it helps a lot. And even if it doesn't help, at least you tried to get help. That's a sign of strength to me. But so I love therapy. I'm a big fan. But I started coming out one by one to my family. I came out to my dad. He was fine with it. He was totally accepting, totally loving. He was surprised. And so was my mom and my sister and Ashley and myself. And so that's the thing. I didn't know when I was younger, there weren't really any big signs. It was kind of just flung on us. And so everyone was surprised, including me. But I'm the kind of person that just jumps on things. I don't really hesitate. So I didn't let it really stew in me that long. I just went for it. And that's how this all happened so fast. But came out to my dad. He was okay with it. I came out to all my sisters. They were fine with it. They loved me. And then, yeah, I was 100% out to my immediate family, and they were all accepting and loving. And
what's the best thing? It sounds like you have a really good family, and you've got a family with your parents getting divorced. You've got step parents in your life, and I sense they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
What's the best thing family members say to you?
It's just, we love you. And I was actually worried to tell my stepdad. I love him so much. He's been such a good support in my life. I'm so thankful for him. But he's conservative. I'm liberal. Obviously, I'm gay. And so I was worried about the political conflict, and the gay scene necessarily isn't his thing, and that's fine. Everyone can have their thing. But I came out to him. I said, hey, Ashley and I broke up. Obviously, you know that the reason is because I'm gay. And he was like, okay, like, I love you. There's no difference. It hasn't changed. I still support you. And I was like, all right, cool. And that's where that conversation ended. And it was really eye-opening because I think before you do things, you kind of blow them up in your head. You think it's going to be horrible. You think they're going to kick you out of the house. And I mean, obviously that does happen. And I feel so sorry for the people that does happen to. But for me, I would always just kind of blow things out of proportion. And so that's why I prefer to jump on things, because you never know until you do it. And if they don't love you and they don't support you, you don't really need that negativity in your life, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a sign of strength. And what a great way to manage anxiety, is sort of feeling is about the future and the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Stress is kind of about today, but what a great way to do that, Luke. Um, what would you say to Ashley? I know you continue to talk to Ashley. If
Yeah.
she's listening, what would you say to her? Because it just might be helpful for all partners that are in a relationship that kind of gets complicated because one
Right.
is no longer, they assume both are straight and one's not.
Yeah.
What would you say? It's sort of you talking to all the Ashleys out there.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you to Ashley if she's listening, because she was so loving. And when I ended up breaking up with her and I told her I'm gay, this isn't going to work, she said she knew from the moment I told her I was bi, but she let me get there on my own. And I'm thankful for that, because I mean, it obviously put a lot of strain on her and me, but her being loving me enough to let me handle my own journey, I'm so thankful for that. But anyone in that sort of situation, it's not going to be easy. Obviously, if there's love involved, it's going to be tough. And so I think just be patient with each other on both sides. If you're the one coming out, understand that it's going to hurt the other person, and be conscious of their feelings, and be aware that they may be angry and they may be hurt, and that's okay, because everyone's feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid, their feelings are valid. If you come to an agreement that you love each other and do what's best for each other, just have each other in mind. And so for all the Ashleys out there, just um focus on yourself as well, because it's not just the person coming out, it's not just their journey, it's also your journey, because you're a part of it. And so Ashley's a huge part of my journey, one of the biggest. And so just know that it's both of your journeys, you're figuring it out together. And so, but be aware of your own feelings too. Don't neglect those, because everyone's feelings are valid, and if you let them bottle up, it'll blow up on you, and that's never fun.
Doing a great job, Luke. Thanks so much on behalf of our listeners. Talk about, you're with Ashley for quite a while. I think you said 3.5 years, but I made
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that was a real relationship.
It was.
Just share with our listeners kind of how you frame up that relationship and the context of that relationship.
So we met when I was 15. We started dating when she turned 16, because then she finally had her license and we could go do stuff. But we had one of the deepest emotional connections I've ever had, maybe the deepest. And we had so much fun together. We loved spending time with each other. I just loved being with her. I wanted to spend every second with her. And I mean, I don't want to speak for her, but I kind of feel like she felt the same way. And so we wanted to get married. We wanted to have kids. We had promise rings. We were serious. And I think so that made it tough when I came out, that it was kind of our whole future just shattered. But obviously it had to be done. But we just loved spending time with each other, and looking back, it might have been just one of the deepest emotional connections and deepest loves I've ever felt. And it may not have been as romantic as I thought, but I'm thankful that we could have had that. And I think it shaped both of us into who we are today.
That's very helpful. And, I think one day, you two are going to, my guess is, stay in good contact and
I hope
rejoice
so.
in each other's successes. And,
Yeah.
I think these high school friendships often, we're going to our 40th reunion in my life. And I think, when you go to your 40th reunion, that seems forever away. It is for you. But, you two will continue to be friends and talk about your great lives.
I hope so. I think so. I think we'll stay tight for a long time.
Talk about, why you came out. Because some people would say, well, Luke, you should have why come out? I mean, what's the upside to that?
Right.
It just made your life more complicated.
Right.
Now you've got to figure out,
a whole lot more complicated.
So I framed that up sort of knowing your answer, but share with our listeners that may wonder, why would Luke come out?
So like I said, I jump on things, so I'm not one to just let it sit in me. So I don't like hiding things. I'm not a liar. I'm not someone that's going to hide stuff. So once I knew for sure, I was like, all right, it's going to happen eventually. But I was going to wait until after graduation, but I ended up coming out about a week before graduation. But I decided that, I mean, if it went poorly, I would only have a week left at Corner Canyon. So I could deal with a week of bullying and torment. But if it went well, that's kids I can impact. That's people I can help that may be going through the same thing as me, that may have had a similar story. And so that was kind of my intentions, was just I can use this as a platform to help kids. And um, I can suffer for a little while if it helps someone through their story, because I know when I was coming out for a solid 4 or 5 months, I was very depressed, very sad. And it may not have seemed like that at school or on the basketball court, but I was really sad with life and I did not like my life at all. And, um, but I tried to use my depression as motivation to help other kids that may be going through the same thing, because I think serving others, I know this is a big focus in the church, but also just in general for people, serving others brings you happiness. And so when I was feeling down and hating my life, I thought there are also kids in this school who are also down, hating their lives, but they have no one in their corner, when I knew I had the whole school behind me, my family, my friends. So I had people in my corner. So I thought if I could be that person in someone's corner, I should take advantage of that.
Talk about coming out then. Did you come all out at once at Corner Canyon? Did you come out to smaller groups you connected with, and just share with us more of that?
Yeah. So the first group I came out to was a group of kids from Corner Canyon who do theater. The way I met them this year. I asked one of them to the school dance. We got in a group with their friends.
Female.
Yeah. And I connected with them. Because I had spent my whole life around jocks, around athletes, and I just don't really connect with them as well, because it's just sometimes the locker room talk can be very disrespectful and very just not my vibe. And that's okay. But these kids, I felt like I finally had a home with them. It felt right. And so I had an automatic new group of best friends, which was awesome. And so about a month after knowing them, it was New Year's, and I came out to them, and I wasn't really expecting it, but it felt okay. I felt safe. I knew I wasn't going to be judged there, because I know a lot of them are liberal and a lot of them are loving and accepting, and a lot of them are LDS too, but that doesn't make a difference. And so they just love everyone. And so I came out to them, and that was the first group I ever came out to. And it was a massive step for me, because it wasn't premeditated. I didn't go to the party thinking like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm about to come out. Here we go. It was more like out of the blue. I was like, you know what? I feel comfortable enough with you guys to tell you this part of me. And so that was a massive step for me. I'm super thankful for that group. They know who they are. I hope they listen to this, but they really changed my life. And from that moment on, I started feeling more and more comfortable with myself, because it was out there to the world, not on a huge scale, but to about 10 kids from Corner Canyon. And then about 4 months later, in April, I decided that it was time to come out to my two best friends from the basketball team, both straight, both LDS. And I was terrified, because you never know how people are going to react, obviously. And they were my best friends. I didn't want to lose them, because I just loved them so much. And so that was the scariest one for me. But I took them upstairs one day, and one night actually. And
your home?
No, it was one of their homes.
One of their homes.
I went over. They were both there. I was like, hey, before we take off, we're gonna go to Nickelcade or some fun thing.
Did you go there that night saying, this is the night I want to tell my...
I did, and I kind of decided on the way over there. I was like, all right, this is what's gonna happen. I ended up calling Abby, the girl I asked to the dance. She's like my best friend. I love her so much. I called her and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Should I do it? And she was like, yeah, go for it. And so she kind of helped me. She's helped me a lot on this journey.
Great.
So
you have friends that can
shout out
you.
Abby. Love you. But
ABBY or ABBIE?
ABBY, yeah.
There you go, Abby. Want to get your name right there.
Yeah, she's the best. So yeah, I decided I was going to come out to them. I sat them down, and I was like, hey.
So you're upstairs in one of their homes. It's before you're going to go out. They have no idea you're...
I think, well...
Or there may have been some rumors going around the school.
Yeah, and so I I sat them down. I was like, all right, I have something to tell you guys. Don't get weird on me. This doesn't affect our relationship at all, but I'm gay. And then they kind of just sat there for a sec. And then one of them, Andrew, he said, I know. He said someone had told him about 3 months prior that word had gotten around a little bit, and someone ended up telling him. And he said, I know, I've wanted to tell you that I know for a while, but I wanted you to get there on your own. So I'm thankful for him. Shout out Andrew.
Way to go, Andrew.
But so he was a great friend for me, and he let me get there on my own. And the other one, Gabe, I'm not sure if he knew or not. I think he probably assumed because, I mean, there were little hints here and there, little Easter eggs. But I think Andrew for sure knew. And then they just asked me questions. They were respectful of it. They asked me my story. I told them because they knew I had broken up with Ashley, but they didn't know why necessarily. And so I told them our whole story. They were respectful. They were kind. And they just gave me a hug and they said, we love you no matter what. And Gabe actually said, he said, we've been through too much to lose us now. So sorry, but you're stuck with us.
It's great.
And yeah, so
what a great answer.
That was amazing. I'm so lucky to have them in my life as well. And so up until this point, it had all been positive. I had no negative experiences, which I'm lucky for.
Talk about why it's harder to come out to the straight guys that are your friends. I mean,
I think you just
and why
never
that
know
can
how
potentially be the most helpful.
Yeah, you just never know how people are going to react, and especially when it's your best friends that you've known for so long, because you just don't know if you'll lose them, and that's losing people's hard. Losing people you love is hard, but when you do gain the acceptance of someone who's different than you, say from a straight man, who's like, it doesn't matter, that was eye-opening for me, that maybe things are getting a little better in the world, at least in our community a little bit, because I know if that were 10 years ago, they probably would not talk to me. And so I waited until after basketball because I didn't want to mess with our team chemistry because we were about to win state. And so I wasn't trying to mess up the locker room or anything, but yeah, they were super awesome, super accepting. They're still awesome. We're still best friends. And so that was cool.
You know, older people listen to these podcasts. How old are you?
I'm 18.
You know, and they message me and it just gives them so much hope because, you know, just the experience you've shared with Andrew and Gabe, two of your jock friends. I don't know if that's the right vocabulary. Just two of your homies. That's the vocabulary my high school son would use.
Yeah.
They just have been together for a long time. They've been through everything. They've got each other's back. And to have you come out as gay to two of, you know, your close friends and for them to react that way, you know, the other people have messaged me sometimes. I just wish that could have happened for me. And
I know. And I feel for people that
and you're sensitive to that, but there's something so healing about, you know, we've had some guests on the podcast. We had some members of the Viewmont class of whatever, a married couple and their gay high school friend. And it was the straight, you know, guy that just said, he's my friend, you know, nothing's changed. That almost was more helpful than his wife. So sometimes the women come to this space easier than the straight guys. So you straight guys out there that are listening, you have a role here to really a massive role. Why?
Because you know you're going to be accepted.
And I mean by men and women. So this isn't a men thing. And for you being a man, it's a little better from the men to have, and the women, they need straight women. But go ahead.
So you know you're going to be accepted by the gay community, obviously, when you come out, because they're also out. They share similar stories, and usually women are okay with it too, because typically, like gay men spend more time with women, they connect with women easier, they have more women friends, and so you're probably going to be accepted by that group too. But then when you're accepted by straight men, it's kind of like it hits differently. It's a different click where it finally clicks that maybe everyone loves me for who I am, not just the ones that want to, you know what I mean? And so at least that's how it was for me, where I finally realized that this is real, but people are okay with it. And finding out that my two best friends were okay with it, that was a revelation for me.
Maybe everyone will be okay with this. You know, I really love that. Talk about their families, their parents. I don't know if they, if you had any interaction with Gabe or Andrew's family as they've known you were gay and what kind of reception, because I assume you've been in these homes your whole
Yeah.
life. And
Honestly, I don't even know if they told them right away or if they didn't or if they kind of kept it secret, but obviously they know now because I'm publicly out. I'm very out now. But they've been super supportive as well. They still love me. They still let me come to their house and eat dinner with them, and I love them. They've been a big part of my life, and so I'm thankful for them, and they haven't brought it up. They haven't really said anything, and I'm cool with it. I don't feel the need to like shake the boat if it doesn't need to be shaken. So we're just
so
we're
you
just
don't
still
need
doing
to
our
have
thing.
this conversation with everybody. You probably don't want to
Right.
have it. It can be
Well,
kind of exhausting.
yeah, if they wanted to, I'm always willing for, and open for questions because I'm just an open person. Obviously, I'm on this podcast sharing my story, but if they came up to me asking questions, saying trying to understand more, I'd be like, yeah, I would let them know. But I think I think if they're okay with me being gay and they're okay with not talking about it, I'm fine with not talking about it too. But if they want to talk about it, I'm also fine with talking about it.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
good.
makes no difference to me.
I like this idea that you said at some point. I was just thinking about this 24/7.
Yeah.
What is my sexuality? Who am I? Where do I fit? And you're on this personal journey with good people in your life helping you.
Yeah.
Do you still think about it 24/7 or is it less?
I'd say it's more 21/6, just almost 24/7, but not quite. So it's it's um it's becoming a little less and less, and I think about it less and less. But it's still a big thing on my mind, and obviously with these podcasts I'm doing, I'm going to be thinking about
Yeah.
it a lot. But it's it's not a negative thing. Where when it was 24/7, it was eating away at me. Why are you like this? Why do you like boys? Why why just why? Why do I have to be like this? But now it's more, I'm glad I'm like this. I'm thankful for these opportunities I'm given. I'm hopeful that I can share my story and help others. So I think about it a lot just in a different way. Before it was negative, before it was my life is shattering. What am I going to do? What's going on? Why is this happening? And now it's more, I'm thankful and I'm okay with myself now. And obviously I still struggle. And I think there will always be days where I struggle. And that's a common theme in coming out stories is that it's not easy and it's gotten easier, but that doesn't mean it's easy, but it's getting better. And now my thought has shifted.
Very good at communicating. It's a real gift for you. And I know
Thank you.
you're going to psychology and would like to be a therapist, but I
Right.
just see natural gifts as you're able to talk. And I think that will help you in your career.
Thank you.
As you talk about this, the thoughts come to my mind a little bit about just the stages of grief you go through in your own life, because
Right.
you had these hopes and these dreams with Ashley, and that just
Right.
all kind of shattered as you fully came aware of who you are. And when you talk about depression, is there a way to link what kind of led you in the depression? And I think in the other podcast, you framed this up as situational depression, which is very
Right.
helpful. Just help our listeners understand a little bit about depression, situational depression, and what you think kind of brought this on for you, and then what brought you out of it.
Yeah. So when I first started coming out, I was really sad, obviously, because I was still in the relationship with Ashley. Our end was inevitable. We tried to postpone it. We tried to put it off, but it was going to happen. But the way I kind of look at it is that I was kind of mourning the death of straight Luke, where this idea I had in my head of what my life was going to be, how it was going to turn out, it was dead. It was gone. But that was only looking back, it's not dead and it's not gone because I'm still going to do the same things I wanted to do. I'm still going to have kids. I'm still going to have a successful career. I'm still going to live the life I want to do, but it'll just be with a man. But so I was really sad because it felt like my life had shattered. And so I go to my therapist and I'm depressed at the time and I say, what's going on? This isn't me. I'm very happy. Just a very upbeat person in general. And she told me that it was situational, that it was adaptation. Like I just need to adapt. And once I had adapted to this new life that I had and this new vision of what my future was going to be, it would it would be gone. It would be lifted. And so I knew it would end, but that doesn't make it easier. That because I know it wasn't some chemical thing in my brain, and it was just what I was going through at the moment, and I knew it would end, but in the moment it felt forever long. And I remember nights where it felt like I had never been happy. And I don't know if people listening to this that have been through depression, I know it's extremely difficult. And I only had it for about 4 or 5 months, and I don't know compared to others how bad mine was, but it was hard on me. And there were nights where I felt like I'd never been happy and I would never be happy again. And I would sit there kind of feeling like a black hole where it just felt like nothing. And but I knew it would be lifted eventually. And I think coming out to that group of friends lifted it a little bit. And then talking more and more with them about being gay, or like about just like little things, like talking about boys, or and them not looking at me weird, or like me wearing what I want to wear and them not looking at me weird. It lifted my depression more and more. And then eventually I just felt comfortable with myself. And that's when I ended up coming out to Gabe and Andrew, when I was 100% sure with my sexuality. I say 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure of anything, but I felt comfortable enough. But the more and more comfortable you become, the less this depression was weighing on me.
Are Andrew or Gabe LDS? Are they going on missions?
Yeah, so Andrew is going on a mission. He puts in his papers in November. Gabe is going to Purdue Northwest to play basketball.
That's
It's
cool.
just south of Chicago. And he plans on going on a mission in a year. But I mean, you can never predict the future.
Yeah.
But they are both LDS, yeah.
You know, I had a son that had somebody came out on his mission, one of his companions. He called it Pillow Talk. They just kind of were open, and one of my son's companions came out. And so I'm thinking about, Andrew and Gabe and all the men and women at Corner Canyon that may serve missions or will be parents and have people come out to them. And I have to think you've prepared them and you've helped a lot of people, because there's a lot of people in your circle that are going to have people come out to them during their life.
Yeah. And
they're going to go back to you and they're going to think, yeah, Luke is a really good guy, was a really good friend. And so I think you've helped a lot of people. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, the way Jill said it in the previous podcast I did on human stories was, if anyone comes out to you, it's sacred. That's how she described it. And I think that was so beautiful, is that they're opening up to you and they're sharing this part with you. And so if anyone does come out to you, it is sacred, and that's so scary. And it's so hard to come out to people. And so just honor that, and just know, regardless of your beliefs, regardless of your religious ideology or your political beliefs or whatnot, everyone is a person. Every single person has thoughts and feelings. And so just be with that person. You may not agree on everything. That's fine. You don't have to. Find the good in people, like I said, and find your similarities, because I guarantee there's a lot more similarities than there are differences.
I love that. And I just, Gabe and Andrew, I would guess will be life friends, and, they may be parents one day, have a son come out to them. They may have a missionary companion. They may teach somebody that's LGBTQ on their mission, and think of their friend Luke. And you've humanized LGBTQ people I don't know about Gabe and Andrew for sure, but I would assume you're one of the first gay people they know, and you're a friend.
Exactly.
And so all this sort of homophobia, and I don't know if they had any at the time. I certainly did when I started to meet with gay people. I realized that a lot of stuff I'd picked up was some straight people, and it wasn't right.
Well, the thing is that I've realized with the LDS church, but also with just people in general, is that they may have homophobia, but it's not always conscious. It's always, not always. It's sometimes just ignorance. It's just they don't know. And so with me coming out in the Draper community, in the Corner Canyon community, in the Utah community, hopefully it just opens some eyes that you don't have to be some, it's not what you see in the media. It's not every gay person is the same either. And I'm not saying the people that are flamboyant and the people that are just living their lives how they want to, I love that. I respect it so much. But, and maybe in the future, that'll be something I partake of. I don't know. But for
Very
me, right
thoughtful.
at the moment, it's not necessarily for me. And I think people will see that. And it's just all about respect for everyone. But I think just ignorance and kind of um, enlightening people that the gay community is literally the same as every other community. They just are attracted to the same sex, or they're transgender, what have you. And so we still live, we still go to the grocery store, and we still pay bills, and we still do all that. It's the exact same. And so I think for me, when that kind of clicked, when I spent some time with some family friends that are gay, seeing their house just be a normal house, see them cooking dinner together, see them like mowing the lawn. It's like, it's so stupid to think that like that was a hard thing for me to picture, but I'm still going to live a normal life. And I think for the straight allies, that's a great lesson to learn, is that they're just normal people.
Yeah, I've thought about a phrase that sometimes I hear that's, a threat to the family. And it's sort of this, we just say a threat to the family sometimes. And sometimes that's code language for LGBTQ people are a threat to the family. And I'm uncomfortable with that. I just look at LGBTQ people, and you have a hope to marry a man and raise a family. And is that a threat to my straight family? It's not. I mean,
Exactly.
my straight family and our straight marriage can kind of stand on its own merits. I don't need to sort of go after your marriage, assuming you marry a man, and sort of lift my marriage on your back.
Exactly.
And I can just, yeah, I have doctrine that I believe in our church, but part of my doctrine in the church is to be kind to other people,
And
like you're
love
teaching
everybody.
us, and love everybody. So I
Yeah.
just honor your journey, Luke. And
Hmm.
I don't have, I don't sort of feel a need to sort of, if I'm going to say if I'm going to think about threats to the family, I'm going to think about fatherless society, men that, leave their families, or have multiple relationships, father all these kids and then leave
Yeah.
and don't take responsibility for their kids. I think of fathers. I think of kids being sold into sex trafficking. I think of the border and the separation of families at the border. I think of governments with ethnic cleansing. And I think those are the real threats to the family.
Exactly.
You're not a threat to
And
to my
the
family.
thing is, I actually did a research project on this in English class this year. I did it on gay adoption and fostering. And the thing is, with gay parents, they have to take a different route to get kids. Obviously, they can't have them the traditional way. And so most of the time, the gay parents really want kids. They want them, and they will love them, and they will treat them so well, because they had to jump through so many hoops to get there. They had to do so much paperwork, do all that, do all that. There are no accidents in the gay community. And so these parents, they want their kids so badly, and they will do anything for these kids. So they may not have the traditional mother and father figure, but they will have two loving mothers or two loving fathers that will love them unconditionally. And so I think it doesn't matter where you're getting that love from. If you have two loving parents, you're going to be fine. You're going to be well off.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think my guess is the research that you're talking about, as we just have more time, will recognize that kids in a situation where both parents are gay, they can and will grow up and be great kids.
Exactly. Just
And
normal
I
kids.
think that's just a maturing of our society. And I think historically we've just kind of said things not based on fact, that kind of keep everything in a nice, tidy box about race and about the role of women. And I think we're just maturing as a society to understand and humanize LGBTQ people.
I like the way you said that. It's just a tidy little box. That's kind of how I felt at Corner Canyon, was that I was in this box of student body officer, basketball player, and I kind of broke out of that box, obviously, when I came out. And one thing I struggled with recently was kind of feeling like I was in another box, just a different box of gay man. You know what I mean? And so my whole life is kind of, at the moment, is kind of breaking stereotypes. And it's hard to do because you kind of, you're just like, you're nudged into your group, your stereotype. And so I think, like you said, with race and role of women, there are so many stereotypes to be broken in society. And one thing I said to my friend once when we were having a healthy, respectful conversation about politics, and I love having those, but I said, I think the constant things, people always say the only inevitable things in life are death and taxes. But I think social reform is also one of the most constant things, because you look back at times in the past, and there were times when there was thought that like black men would never be with white men. And now look at us. We still have work to do, obviously. But I think social reform is going to be constant. And the people that ignore social reform, those are the ones that are going to be left behind. And so if we can embrace that as a community, just not, it doesn't have to do with your religion or your skin tone. If you are able to embrace change, you're going to go places. And so I'm trying to change the perception of me of that box that I've felt like I was in, and now this new box that I feel like I have to fit in. And I'm trying to just break out of every box. We don't need boxes. No one needs a box. That just, it holds people back. And so I think social reform is 100% going to happen, and it's always going to happen. And if you don't like that, you got to get with it because it's going to be there.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful. And I've had to sort of look inward to see some of that. And, as an LDS guy here, how do I frame this up for LDS listeners? And I just, invite everybody to live the teachings of our church. Everything good in my life has come from the teachings of our church. I've seen people join our faith that have been blessed, but I just kind of leave everybody's life. I like the principle of self-determination a therapist taught me, that at the end of the day, my job is to help everybody, to have good principles for them to self-determine the path in their life that works for them. So you're self-determining the right path for you.
Right.
And I just honor that. I don't feel a need to sort of project, if you come to me and say, what do you think about my path? And I'm a trusted friend in your life, I might give you a thought or two, but my job is just, Luke, is just to just kind of put my hands in your back as you're making your way in life and just support you.
Yeah. And I think I love that idea, and I love that mindset. And I think if everyone adopted that mindset in America or in the world, I think we would go so many more places with our lives, because not everyone's going to live the same life. But that's what makes life beautiful, is that we all have different routes, and we all have different paths, and we all have different strengths and gifts and talents. And if we all just support each other on our way there, we're all just trying to be happy. And so we're not going to be the same, and we're not going to have the same routes. But if we support each other on those routes, we'll go so much further.
I want to go back to just the culture of locker room talk. You used that phrase, and the culture of theater and the culture of conservative versus liberal. Because in the back of my mind, I love the way you recognize their differences, but I would suggest, and I think you'd probably agree, that we could develop a healthy culture in all of those different environments for LGBTQ, women, race, and as we just mature. So talk about locker room talk and why, even though you're a starting member of the state basketball teams, you totally belong, you didn't connect fully because of the locker room talk.
That's a good way to put it. I didn't connect fully because I did connect with them. They were obviously some of my best friends. I loved them. I joked around with them. I had fun. But when the jokes turned to being disrespectful to women or racist or homophobic, if anyone would say, oh, like that's so gay, I would obviously put them in their place right away and say, what do you mean? What, like, that's not negative. Or if they would say the F word in the derogatory term, I don't like saying it, but
it's good.
I'm not okay with that. And I think if they're disrespecting women, I'm not okay with that. And you don't have to be a woman to think it's unacceptable to disrespect women. And so I think if we can just get to the point where Yeah, you can joke around in the locker room. You can have a good time. You can have fun, but when it starts being at the expense of other people, that's not acceptable.
Do you think that happens more in a sports situation than other circles? Because
Yeah.
you are in multiple circles now
Yeah.
at Corner Canyon.
I
So you're not just
definitely
sort
think
of in
so.
this one group. You're really unique in the sense you're finding, in the sense you're connecting with a lot of different groups in the high
Yeah.
school level.
I definitely think so because I don't know, it's just a bunch of immature young men in the same place. I think they all just it's kind of the snowball effect. One of them starts it and it's like the mob mentality of where if everyone's doing it, yeah, it's probably okay. And then it starts rolling, it starts getting more disrespectful, and then it becomes commonplace. And I think in groups such as the theater community, there's a lot of people from minorities in theater, and so people will stand up for that. And if someone's disrespectful, they'll be put in their place. But um, at least from my point of view, um, the the locker room is mostly just straight white guys, and they've never had to. When you're with a bunch of those same types of people, they don't really get put in their place very often, and they're not told that what they're doing is wrong. And once they're told that,
And would
most of
you
them,
do that at times?
yeah, I did that a lot actually, and I think people would get annoyed with me and people would get bugged, but I don't care. I'm passionate about it, and I think if if we're willing to compromise other people's rights and other people's respect, like what else are we going to compromise in the future? Like we have to start small and stand up for what we believe in because I mean, I can't go out at the moment and start some big nonprofit for feminism. That's just not in my cards at the moment. But I can tell my friends that to stop being disrespectful of women and stop talking about women in a certain way, and that it has the same impact. And so you have to start small and you have to stand up for what you believe in, even if people don't agree with you. And I think a lot of my friends would get tired of me doing that, and eventually they just learn not to say that stuff around me. And that's great. They shouldn't say that stuff around me or anyone. And so by the time we graduated, I noticed a lot of them a lot of them were trying to go on missions as well. And so they were trying to clean up a little bit of their lifestyle. And so if they would say something, they would immediately apologize and say like, "Hey, I'm working on it." And
So let me just talk about the irony of that. Here's the gay, not LDS guy helping the LDS straight guy kind of improve so he could get on a mission.
yeah,
I don't
and
think you wanted to quite say it that way, but you are helping us become a better people.
yeah, and I think everyone can help everyone become a better person. And I think one thing I struggle with was trying to not sound condescending when I would correct people because it's not it's not necessarily like I'm saying it because I think I'm better than you. I'm like, hey, don't be like that. I'm above you because I one of my friends once told me to um, step off my high horse when I told him to not talk about a girl a certain way. But it's more because I work on stuff like that too. Like when I say things that are unacceptable, or if I accidentally say something racist or sexist, like people make mistakes. Like you just apologize, recognize that what you said is wrong, and try not to say it again, and don't say it again. But I think when I first started correcting people, it kind of came off in the wrong way sometimes, and I'm still working on that. Where I'm like, hey, can you please not like that's just so disrespectful, and I'm like, I know I'm working on it too. Like let's get better together.
It's a great sign of leadership, and it takes a lot of courage in that environment when
Yeah.
you want to sort of belong to a group to then potentially risk that by sharing, how we can do better. It takes a lot of courage, Luke.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a confident enough person.
Were your coaches adding to the locker room talk, or was this sort of the boys?
No, it was just the boys. We would never talk around like that around our coaches because, I mean, we respected them too much to
So
even.
that's good to know.
Yeah,
So,
and so the coaches, they're totally respectful. And I just sent my first podcast episode to my two coaches. I texted it to them, and
great.
they've been super supportive and super loving. And
That's great.
so, and they're both LDS as well, and both straight, but they got my back no matter what. And
That's
so
great.
they never contributed to that. They were super respectful, great role models, and I'm lucky to have had them in my life.
Yeah, I just think I'm going to read a quote from Brene Brown that really helps me understand this. Common enemy intimacy is the opposite of true belonging. If the bond we share is simply we hate the same people, the intimacy we experience is intense, immediately gratifying, and an easy way to discharge our outrage and pain. It is not, however, fuel for real connection. Any thoughts on that?
That's 100% right. And that's how I view it too. I think um, I'm just all about, like I said, I've mentioned this multiple times already, is finding the good in people. And if all you do is focus on what you have different from each other, there's nothing you're going to gain out of that. Like
Yeah.
you might get a good joke right then at the moment, but it's at someone else's expense. And that's never right. That's not kind. You wouldn't want people doing that to you. I know now that I'm out, I know people are probably talking about me. I don't know if it's negative or positive. I mean, I'll never be able to tell, but I wouldn't want them talking negatively about me because I'm not negative about other people. So, like, again, I said this earlier, it's like one of my core beliefs is just mutual respect for everyone. And, but I totally agree with that. I think that's a beautiful quote.
So I guess our listeners, this locker room talk, I would say, is an umbrella term for lots of situations where we find intimacy by creating a bond that we are negative towards another group of people. So
Yeah.
it can happen in my church where we sit in church and take on another faith in kind of an unhealthy emotional way or LGBTQ. And I think we can just learn to stand up for who we are on our own merits and not have to sort of take on another group of people to create a bond. Because
Yeah.
I love part of this quote is, if we connect because we hate another group of people, we do connect. It's an authentic connection, but it's not a fuel for real connection, and it doesn't really help us emotionally be in the very best spot. If I just watch my news channel just to hear them bash on the other side, that may make me feel good, but it may not really.
You're not really
I may
gaining
just,
anything.
I'm not gaining anything, and my anxiety and stress as I hear how bad the other side is just might increase versus
Yeah.
a more neutral approach. I finally quit watching cable TV, Luke, because it just stressed me out. And now I
Yeah.
still am very educated, but it's just fact-based news. And I do think we could evolve that even conservative circles can have the same healthy conversation that, quote, liberal circles are having about women, race, and LGBTQ, because it should just be principles that bring us together, as
Well,
you're sharing.
the thing that I think your political ideology should not affect your opinions about humans. You know
Wow,
what I
that's
mean?
powerful, Luke.
So I think you can have your opinions um, on economics, or you can have your opinions on the illegal aliens that are coming in our country, or it doesn't matter. But that should not impact how you view women, or how you view gay people, or how you view any minorities. It shouldn't matter. You should still love everyone, because I know there are conservative gay people out there, and I know there are liberal straight people out. It doesn't matter, but it shouldn't impact your love for other people, because you can love everyone unconditionally and still think something about economics. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I really agree with you. Any final thoughts you'd like to share, Luke? I'm just looking through my notes. You've done such a good job here. Any final thoughts? Tell us. I would like you tell us just what your plans are for college and what you hope to study and what you like to do.
Yeah, actually, before that, I would like to say, so I came out to Gabe and Andrew, and then I came out right before graduation, and I was speaking at graduation.
Yeah. So
And
tell us this.
yeah, so
I'm
I
glad
came
you're
out
circling
to
back to this.
I came out to student government as a whole at a barbecue that we had. They were all super loving and supportive.
How do you do that? Do you just say, "I'd like to say something," or
so this is how it went down.
I mean, even to do that, you've got to orchestrate a moment where they're listening.
Yeah, and so I made these awards. It's like tradition that the SBO president makes these funny awards. They all have like jokes or like little jabs at people, and I give them out a little trophy. And at the end, I was like, "Hey, thank you everyone for such a good year. I mean, we accomplished a lot. You were all so awesome, such good friends. I know there have been rumors going around. I'm not sure how abundant they've been, but I am gay, and this year has been really hard for me. But having you guys to back me up and having an automatic friend group has been awesome. And so just thank you. And everyone just stood up and gave me a big hug and
That's
showed
great.
their love and support. And so I was out to
That's
them.
great.
And right after that, there was actually another party from our school that a bunch of them went to. And so word spread quick. And by that night, or at least the next day, a lot of people knew. And I was okay with that because I knew that it would get out if I came out to that big of a group, especially all the popular kids that they talk. They like to talk. They network. That's how they got there.
That's
and
funny.
so, yeah, by graduation, everyone knew. A lot of the parents in the crowd knew. And so I gave a speech on kindness. A lot of what I'm talking about right now is how we can help each other.
As the SBO president, appropriately speaking at graduation.
Yeah. And I mean, I had to audition as well, like everyone else, but I was glad they chose me. But I spoke on kindness and how it can impact the world and how we can make a difference. And there's a little segment where I talk about the dark place I was in this year and how my friends that I came out to helped me get through it. And I didn't say I was gay, but I kind of alluded to it. And the support was phenomenal, and the outreach after my speech was great. And I had parents I didn't even know coming up to me, giving me hugs. I had teachers crying in the crowd. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
So it made my speech more powerful. And so I was thankful for that opportunity. And that's when Jill's daughter, Anna, reached out to me about the podcast. And that's how this has all started. But yeah, that's the end of my, that's the end of that chapter of my coming out story.
I assume looking back, you're really glad you came out.
I am.
So that you're leaving that Corner Canyon experience authentic with who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talk about, I assume you've just been inundated with messages of other gay, of other LGBTQ people knowing they can kind of open up to you about their story, or parents asking, how do I help my kid? And I assume you've just been flooded with messages.
Not as much as you would assume, but I have gotten some. And I hope more people feel comfortable enough to talk to me about it, because I'm an open book and I want to help people because I have some of those experiences they may be going through. But right after my speech, I actually got a message from an anonymous account. They were saying, "You're so brave, redefining what it is to be a gay man. You should be proud of yourself. I could not have come out at Corner Canyon, still can't come out at the U."
Wow.
But they're like, I was there for a sibling. Like, you made me cry. Beautiful speech. And I started talking to them. I was like, hey, who is this? But obviously they weren't ready. And they said, I'm just not there yet. And I was like, take your time. This is your journey, your story. Mine was very fast, but not everyone's is like that. Most people's aren't like that. And so I recognize that. And we talked for about an hour, and I was like, you're valid. This is your story. Do your thing. If you ever need to talk, I'm here. And that was really cool because that was immediate the night of. And just knowing that I'd at least touched one person, and I hope I touched more. And then after my podcast with Jill came out yesterday, I had messages and messages of people saying like, hey, proud of you. Listen to that. It was amazing. Love you. And I got some of, like, I think I mentioned earlier, those kids that came to me and said that my story had helped them with their coming out, and it influenced them to like decide to come out. And it's just, I just feel lucky that, because not everyone gets this opportunity to share their story. And so I just want to roll with it and take advantage of it. And the more opportunities that come my way, I'm going to seek them out, and hopefully more and more can come of it.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think it's courage, but I think it's really needed. So, I mean, I have a belief in God, and I would sort of say this is God's plan for you, and He kind of knew this would be your journey, and He's given you all these gifts, strengths, and attributes, and that all this different uniqueness about you, all comes together to form Luke.
Yeah.
And who Luke is really awesome. And Luke's mission and the things you'll do in your future are really unique and wonderful. And we need you here to help us become a better people. You're going to heal a lot of people with your therapy. I have this quote called The Wounded Healer I share on a lot of podcasts. And the wounded healer is someone, a minister's service will not be perceived as authentic unless it comes from a heart wounded by the suffering about which she speaks. The great illusion of leadership is to think others can be led out of the desert by someone who's never been there.
Yeah.
But that's you, Luke.
Yeah.
And you're a leader, but we're all a little wounded.
Exactly.
And you have felt the desert of depression. You felt the desert of being closeted. You would then become more sensitive to women, people of other races, and just other marginalized groups. And you see the world you see it through their eyes.
Yeah.
And then you're able to heal and give hope to a lot of people. And that's, my take on just where you're going with your life. And talk about psychology, because that's sort of leading people out of the desert type of a career.
Yeah. I mean, for a while, I thought I wanted to do psychiatry, go to med school and do that. My dad is a plastic surgeon.
Wow.
And so med school is kind of in the cards for me, but I don't really want to do med school. I'm not passionate about medicine. I mean, prescribing meds to people that are ill would be awesome. But I want to talk to people. I want to, like we're doing right now, I want to just be face to face, one-on-one, and help people through their stuff. And there's no other career that I can do that better than therapy. And I've always thought that in high school. It clicked like junior year when I was in math class. I said, this is a waste of time for me. Maybe not for other people, because we need math, obviously. It helps us figure out the world. But for me, with what I want to do, I don't need math. I need words, and I need a platform, and I need a voice. And so that's why I loved psychology, because I love the brain. I love people. And so that was awesome. I didn't love English class, but I realized that I needed it for what I was going to do. I think communication is just massive. And so, yeah, those classes really shaped my future and my career, and especially student government as well, because I had to interact with administration, and I had to speak at assemblies, and I spoke at graduation, and I had to get things done, and I had to be a problem solver, and I had to be proactive. And those are all skills I'll take into my career and my life going forward. And so I think if there are any high school kids listening to this right now, do student government, because it teaches you amazing lessons. And so I'm thankful for that. But I realized that math and science, they're fine. I like science actually, but they're okay for me. But I need to speak to people. I think people make the world go round.
So you'd love to have a clinical practice where you're meeting with people one-on-one, LGBTQ and broader?
Yeah. I would love to do like some sexual affirmation therapy and stuff like that, but also couples therapy, even people with disorders such as like bipolar. I would get a lot of depression. And I think, like you said, like the wounded healer, I've been through some of this stuff. I know I can relate to them. And I'm a very empathetic person, just in general. I've always been. And so I think, I don't know, I've done a lot of soul searching, and I think therapy was carved out for me. I think this is, I mean, obviously I can't tell the future, and I might change my major in college, but at the moment, I feel like this is the perfect career for me. And I'm psyched about it. I'm so excited.
That's awesome. And I would just say, this is your road, man.
Yeah.
And I love the way the word that came to my mind as you were describing your future is self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
You are very self-aware of who you are, Luke, and what your role is and what you can do. And I think that's a real gift. Not many men and women your age understand that. And I think it's because you've been stretched and you've been exposed to a lot of environments. You're not a one-dimensional sort of guy. You're multidimensional. And I love the way then I think you're very self-aware of your gifts and what you want to do.
Yeah.
And the way you framed up why you want to, get a psychology degree and go into therapy just totally fits.
Yeah.
And we need people like you in our society that can help people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, I look forward to what you're going to be able to do. Some of the thoughts come to my mind is I want to circle back to bi, and I think Luke would agree with this. A lot of gay people that I talk to first identify as bi, and then they become gay. But there are some people that are legit bi, and we've done some podcasts on some people that are bi. And Luke didn't do anything to minimize the bi experience here, but I think it's just important. I just wanted to bring voice to our friends that are actually bi, that is a real thing.
It is.
And I think you know that.
Yeah.
And so if you want to search back other episodes, I just had to learn this talking to people, that bi is a real thing. But a lot of people do, sort of start identifying as bi, and then like you do, they fully become aware that they're gay. And I think that's fine.
Well, it's easier to come out as bisexual because then there's still the hope that you may like women, and I was clinging to that.
Sure.
And so
that's not weakness. That's just reality.
It's scary. And obviously it wasn't just a fear that held me back. It was, I didn't know, because I knew there was something there. I knew I was attracted to men to some degree. But I didn't know I was gay at the moment. And I think a lot of people may like invalidate my story because of that, but that's just part of my journey that I didn't know. And I think that's another stereotype I can break down, hopefully, is that you don't have to know when you're a little kid, because
I like that.
The way my therapist described it to me was that sexuality is so fluid that you may not know. I had only been a sexual being for 2 years, when about 15, when I started figuring stuff out. And so for 2 years, I thought I liked girls. For the rest of my life, I'll be attracted to men. So it's so fluid. It's hard to decipher what you're attracted to. And if there's any confusion, you're not going to know right away. And so,
I like that.
Yeah.
And a general principle that I'd share with anybody listening is to go slow, like Luke has done. You don't have to figure this all out. It doesn't mean if you realize you're not straight that what exactly your path is. I think you can go slow as you're just figuring this out. And I love the way you introduce this podcast as, this is my story.
Yeah.
Everybody's story is different. So if someone comes out as bi, you may in the back of the mind think, well, this is just them eventually becoming out of gay. And that may be true, but it may not. And you just need to let everybody learn their own story, just as Luke is sharing.
Exactly. And forcing that on people, saying, oh, you're not bi, you're gay, that's wrong. And that's good. I'm glad Ashley let me get there on my own, because if she said that to me at that moment, I'd be pissed. I'd be so mad, because at the moment I thought I was bi, and that's just so invalidating and so hurtful to, if someone's telling you their feelings and they say they're bi, and like me, I was uncertain, but I thought I was. If someone had just invalidated me at that moment, I'd be hurt. And so if someone tells you you're bi, they mean it. They're not saying it for no reason. And they might come out as gay later, but they might not. That might just be them. And bisexuality, it's probably the most underrepresented community in the LGBT community. People think it's fake a lot of the times when it's not. And so for me, it wasn't the full me, but that's okay. But like for other people, it's going to be the full them, and they can be attracted to men or women, and that's just them. And saying you're wrong, that's not you, that's hurtful, and that's incorrect, and that's not okay.
Another thought, and you don't need this advice, Luke, but if there's other listeners that are younger, if you feel like you're going to start to date someone of your own sex, my advice is to date someone in your own age group. I think sometimes when you come out and you're vulnerable, older people may reach out to you, and I'm not worried about you, Luke, but I'd go slow. And if there's other older people reaching out to you, and you may feel a need that they're interested in you, and that feels really cool, and they're validating who you are, and that feels really cool. And we all need to feel validated love. That you're really cautious about older people reaching out to you that want to date you. And try to date, and just go slow and try to date people in your own age group. I don't know if you've got any advice in that area. I think you're doing a good job on that.
Well, the thing is, there are creeps everywhere, straight, gay, everyone. They're just creepy people everywhere. And so just be aware, you can't trust everyone. And
good.
You can talk to them. You can like explore it a little bit, but you got to be aware of red flags. And if it's not okay, you got to be able to say, hey, I don't feel comfortable. See ya. And
that's just you being strong. And
yeah.
And don't be afraid to cut someone off and block somebody on social media. That's a sign of strength. And
exactly.
Especially if someone's trying to cut you off and separate you from trusted loved ones in your life, like your parent, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a relationship like that, you've got to I don't like to give blanket advice, but that's a red flags.
Yeah,
And
just be aware and be smart, and I think educate yourself on, because I know some people, they might not see those red flags right away, but just be just be aware and just focus on yourself. And if that person is not good for you, then don't do it.
and
It's pretty simple.
that leads into my second advice. I think we both give everybody the same advice. You've got to, if I'm still the LDS guy that's inviting everybody to stay, for those of you that are LDS. But if if you're self-determining that your road is, a same-sex marriage, then I think you've got to find somebody that lifts you and make you a better person.
Exactly.
And just the same advice we'd all give to straight people is you've got to find, it's got to be 1 + 1 = 3. You've got to, because of this person in your life, you've got to say, not only is that person a better person, than I'm a better person. We're accomplishing more together than we could ever accomplish. And it's not one person rescuing the other one. And I don't scientifically know if there's more. I just think sometimes perhaps a LGBTQ person gets in their first relationship and it's not healthy, but it's so needed because they finally have someone that loves them.
Yeah.
And that's probably true of straight people that get in a first relationship. So it's just general advice. I probably shouldn't pin that on one community, but any thoughts on that, Luke?
I think I think a lot of people get in relationships when they're not ready for them because they feel like they need that love, but you can give yourself that love.
Give yourself that love.
I'm a firm believer on, you have to love yourself before you can love someone else. And that's one of the main reasons I had to break up with Ashley at the time, because I wanted to love her and I wanted to give her that relationship and I wanted to be there for her. But I wasn't being myself and I wasn't loving myself at the time. I hated who I was at the time. And so I had to switch my focus to be, all right, it's like the common phrase that they use a lot is you have to apply your own oxygen mask when the plane is crashing than before doing someone else's. And I'm huge on that. And so focus on yourself. If you're ready for a relationship, then I love relationships. I'm a big relationship guy, but if you're not, you got to also recognize that. And I think just self-reflection is big. Being with your thoughts and feelings, don't avoid them, don't ignore them. If you're sad, sit in your bed and be sad for a sec and really dig deep and see, why am I sad? Why am I feeling this way? And then you can get to the root of problems and you can figure a lot of stuff out that way.
Luke, I keep forgetting you're 18. There was some really good nuggets in that. I hope all our listeners pick that up, that I think dating from a position of strength because you're your best self is a lot better than dating from a position of weakness. And so, yeah, I that's just great. I think you've got to be your best self. You've got to take care of yourself first. If a relationship is not helping you be a better person, you've got to be strong enough to pull out of a relationship and recognize that. And really strong people are able to do that. So great nuggets from Luke. Any more on that subject before we move on?
Not necessarily. Just love yourself. And I mean, it's a lot easier said than done. And I've been through the times where you don't love yourself, but there's so much to love about yourself all the time.
And I think we all should love ourselves.
Exactly.
And we've just got to, we're all just humans. We're all just people. We all have different gifts and attributes and skills. And I think God would want us all to love ourselves the way we are, because He's how He created us. And I think He would want us to love ourselves. That doesn't take growth and progression off the table, but
yeah,
you got to look in the mirror and love yourself.
Well, one thing, I use my social media as kind of a platform to voice my opinion.
Do you want to tell people how to find you on social media?
Oh, yeah. So I'm basically just on Instagram. I don't use
That's
Twitter
how I found you.
Facebook. Yeah. So luke.war. If you guys want to follow me, I would love to have you guys.
Luke. Luke, full Luke.
.war.
Which are the three first initials of your last name.
Yeah. And so I am looking into like raising my Instagram influence and trying to be an advocate for the LGBT community. But
that's great.
I posted something after Pride Month on July 1st. I said, hey, with Pride Month officially over, you guys, I just want to say, love yourself no matter what, whether you're gay, straight, black, white, whatever gender, whatever religion, whatever sexual orientation, it doesn't matter. We're all just trying to be loved and find love and be happy. And we're all you should be proud of your growth and your progression, because even if you do nothing all day, say you sit in your bed and binge Netflix all day, you you needed that. If you felt the need to do that, some days of relaxation are almost or more impactful than days of going out and doing things, because your soul and your mind needs that growth and that time off to digest everything, sit with everything. And so there were times during the school year where there would be like big events like football games or whatever, and I wouldn't go. And I'm student body president, but I would say, I can't do this right now. I'm not in the mental state of mind to force myself to be with people and be outgoing and be happy. And so I would sit at home and I would be lazy and I would do nothing. But sometimes you need that. And so everyone should be proud of your progression and growth. And no matter what, everyone's going through stuff all the time. And I mentioned this in episode 2 of the podcast with Jill, but there's this kid I talked to, and he has cancer, and he's a big influence in my life. He's a great kid. And I was talking about how I used my depression as motivation to help kids, and the way he phrased it, it changed me, and I think about it all the time. But he said, yeah, cancer is it's obviously it affects me a lot. It's always on my mind, but you never know what is going to be someone else's cancer. You never know if, say, someone says one rude thing to them in the halls, or someone doesn't say hi to them in the halls, that could be their cancer. Or maybe their parents are getting divorced, or maybe they have an eating disorder. You don't know what their cancer is. And so that's the big takeaway, is everyone has their cancer, and help people with that. But be proud of your growth, because every day you're growing and changing and developing. And so just be proud of yourself.
I think for my Mormon listeners, Preach My Gospel, which is you're probably not aware of this, Luke, but it's a manual that missionaries study really hard to go on their missions.
Yeah.
And one of the chapters in there is Christ-like attributes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read that, you wouldn't say this to yourself because you're too humble, but you have that chapter nailed.
Thank you.
And I mean that really sincerely.
Thank you.
And I look at what's in that chapter and what Christ wants us to do with our fellow men. That's, his second greatest commandment, like unto it. Many would say it's the same it's the same importance as love thy neighbor as thyself. And you've talked about different groups of people and how to love them. And that, to me, is a big part of why we're here on earth, is to do the things you're teaching us in this podcast. And I've always felt my relationship with God's kind of vertical. My relationship, it kind of goes a line upwards. But then most of what God wants me to do is horizontal, is my interaction with his fellow children.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of stuck now back on you sticking up in the locker room for women. Mm-hmm. and other races, and that to me is what we're supposed to do as on this earth life, is to have everybody else's back, especially people's backs who have a harder road.
Exactly.
And you have figured that out, and you don't want to be perfect, and I'm not saying you're perfect, but your voice is really helpful. So I look at your future and what you're already doing and who you are, and you have a really bright future and really unique future, Luke.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So any last thoughts you'd like to share, Luke, before we sign off?
No, thank you. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. It's been super awesome, and I'm glad I can get my voice out there on a broad spectrum, but it's been cool. It's been great.
So on behalf of all our listeners, Luke Warnock, thank you for joining us on another episode of Listen, Learn, and Love. And thank you, Jill Hazard Rowe. Everybody go check out the podcast that Jill is starting called Human Stories. You can find Jill Hazard Rowe on Facebook. Just a wonderful person. And thank you, our listeners.